The Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre, where adventure takes off. Welcome to Canada's premier bushplane historical museum. Our purpose is to preserve and tell the story of Canada's bushplane and forest fire protection heritage and how it shaped life in the northern and remote parts of Canada. We collect, preserve, exhibit, and interpret bushplanes, related artifacts, and the culture that has built up around them. We have more than 24 classic aircraft in our facility. Many you can actually climb aboard. You'll find something exciting for just about everyone with our amazing 3D film and educational and interactive exhibits. The Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre was formed by a small group of volunteers in 1987. At that time, the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources agreed to allow the group to use a portion of the Fire and Aviation Division, formerly the Ontario Provincial Air Service, hangar, at the edge of the St. Mary's River in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, for displays and storage. When the Fire and Aviation Division operations were moved from the hangar to the Sault Ste. Marie Airport, the CBHC expanded and took over the main hangar. Today, the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre has grown into an incredible attraction for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. The museum has provided over 33 years of entertainment for locals and tourists alike. Let's go inside and have a look. Step inside the original hangar of the Ontario Provincial Air Service. The service was established in 1924. This part of the hangar was constructed in 1948. The Ontario Provincial Air Service was one of the earliest provincial forestry aviation services in Canada. OPAS enabled Ontario government's forestry branch to obtain an accurate inventory of the type, location, and extent of its varied forest resources. Some of these duties included water bombing, a wildlife census, fish and wildlife enforcement, fire detection, flood patrol, and search and rescue. From the early days of OPAS, bushplanes were an integral part of these operations. There were no roads to many of the densely forested areas of northern Ontario. The only way to get there was to fly, and the only place to land was on a lake. The Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre collection features some of the most well-known bushplanes in history. We're going to take a look at some of them, but first, let's discuss what a bushplane is. Bushplanes are usually single-engine aircraft with wings placed on the top of the body, equipped with floats, also known as pontoons, to land on lakes, skis to land on ice, and in some cases, oversized wheels to land on beaches or other relatively flat surfaces. Most bushplanes are used to transport people, supplies, and equipment to remote areas for mining or forestry purposes, or to transport tourists to remote campsites to fish or hunt. Other bushplanes are specially equipped to do other specific tasks such as water bombing, cargo dropping, and aerial photography. Some of these aircraft can do all of these tasks. We'll start with the Norseman, built in 1935 and considered by many to be the first true bushplane. It was the first plane designed and built for Canadian bush flying. The Norseman was used for a wide variety of cargo, everything from moose to uranium. It was also nicknamed Thunder Chicken because of the sound it made during takeoff. The Norseman brought some important innovations to bush flying, with a full metal frame on the Mark 4, 5, and 6 models. Cabin insulation was also a great innovation compared to the open cabin models that were the origin of bushplane flying. The model on display at the Bushplane Centre is now the oldest operational Norseman in the world. The Fairchild Husky, seen here, was built in Quebec after World War II to directly compete with the Norseman. The Husky was designed with cargo doors in the rear in order to take canoes and building supplies inside the aircraft. 12 were built, 9 crashed. This one here in our museum was the last one built. It was flown by Violet Warren, one of Canada's first female bush pilots. Next up is our flagship, the de Havilland DHC-2 Beaver, which celebrates its 75th anniversary this year and was used for forest fire suppression and transportation. In fact, 44 were purchased by the Ontario Provincial Air Service. The Beaver features all-metal construction, fuel filler in the fuselage, and crew doors on both sides. Although never used by the Canadian military, it has been used in the air forces of 14 countries and used as a civilian aircraft in 62 countries around the world. The de Havilland Beaver was selected as one of the top 10 most important engineering achievements of the past 100 years. Rugged, economical, with great short landing and takeoff characteristics, it is still used throughout the world today. In fact, 9 are still in use by the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary for search and rescue efforts. From the Beaver, we move on to the de Havilland DHC-3 Otter, which carried on the tradition of bush flying. With a larger wingspan and fuselage and a more powerful engine, the Otter features 2 times the cargo space of the Beaver and is also known as the King Beaver. The Otter can also carry up to 9 passengers and 2 crew, and met the demand for a plane that could carry twice the load of the Beaver. The Otter in our museum crashed near Moosonee in 1984 and was rebuilt by Centre volunteers and staff over the course of 10 years to almost flying condition. Both the Beaver and the Otter had the ability to carry out water bombing through use of in-float systems, which means they could have water tanks installed on their pontoons that could be released over fires. They couldn't carry a lot of water, however, so another solution had to be found. Enter the Canadair CL-215. One of the most famous firefighting planes in Canada, it was the first model in a series of flying boat amphibious aircraft. Designed in 1966, it was the first purpose-built water bomber. The CL-215 is capable of picking up 5,455 liters of water at a time and dropping it on a fire. This plane was in production until 1990, when an improved model, the CL-415, was introduced. These are just the tip of the iceberg as far as planes go. Here's a look at some of the other planes in our hangar. But the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre is not just bush planes. We have loads of other things to explore. Come visit our flight simulator and feel what it's like to fly in a bush plane over the Algoma region's most iconic landscapes. A classic bushplane museum exhibit, the Flight Adventure Simulator, is located at the entrance of the Children's Centre. You will feel the thrill of the engine starting, the float plane lifting off from the water, unique aerial views, and always tense landings, all from the comfort of our 5-seat cockpit. Interested in nature and ecology? Within the Children's Education Centre, we also have an invasive species exhibit and Northern Nature Trade from Science North. Do you love to collect? Do you love nature and the great outdoors? Then the Northern Nature Trade might just be for you. You can bring in the natural things you've found outdoors and trade them for things in our collection. You can trade things made by nature like rocks and crystals, seashells, fossils, and pine cones. Trading is entirely based upon point values and not cash. You'll be awarded points for your items based on what do you know about the item? What makes it different from similar items? Its quality. Is it clean and in good condition? Funding from FedNor and the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation has made this project possible. Science North is an agency of the Government of Ontario. Next on the list, our impressive fire protection exhibit. Climb a forest fire tower and see if you can spot any new fires. The original fire towers were 80 to 100 feet tall and were built on high ground in order to have a maximum field of vision for spotting forest fires. Our 30-foot high example provides an excellent view overlooking the Bushplane Museum display floor. Visit a reproduction of a forest ranger's office, complete with radio link to the fire tower. Visit a reproduction of a 1940s bush camp, bush camps were used as temporary homes for forest firefighting crews. View our collection of vintage fire pumps and railway speeders. See the results from working lightning strike recorders in action. Then, visit our Wildfires 3D Theater to participate in a modern forest fire protection response. An intense 3D presentation packed with forest fighting special effects. The film tells the story of how the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry's Aviation, Forest Fire, and Emergency Services branch battle forest fires in Ontario from both the air and the ground. Learn of the preconditions leading to forest fires and their ecological role in certain forests. When one starts, become part of the action with the forest fighting ground crews battling a raging wildfire. Feel the adrenaline as your crew is told to evacuate through dense smoke to the safety of a nearby lake. Join the decision-making in the aircraft directing the ground and aerial water bombing attack of that out-of-control wildfire. Sit with the pilots and experience the rush as the cascade of water from the CL-415 water bomber is dropped onto the fire. This film is a definite must-see when visiting the museum. And last, but certainly not least in our exhibits, our newest addition, the Atomica Insectarium. Atomica Insectarium is an insect-focused science center now located inside the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Center. Their mission is to inspire and connect visitors of all ages with science and nature through interactive experiences with insects, arachnids, and other creepy-crawly invertebrates. A variety of live exotic insects from around the world are displayed in beautiful living vivariums, and their knowledgeable bug wranglers will be happy to introduce you to these amazing creatures. And finally, what would a museum be without a gift shop? Once you've toured our incredible facility, stop by the Wings and Airplane Things gift shop for a souvenir of your visit. You'll find everything from clothing, books, and toys, to locally handcrafted art and gifts, and so much more. There's something for just about anyone. Just like history, we continue to grow and change in order to provide the city of Sault Ste. Marie and all of our visitors with the most entertaining and informative museum of Canada's bushplane and forest protection heritage that we can. If you haven't seen us, you definitely need to. If you haven't seen us in a while, I suggest you visit and see what's new. We're very proud of our history, our exhibits, and our airplane collection, and we want to share it all with you. Check out the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Center at www.bushplane.com, or better yet, come and see us in person and let the adventure take off.
We can't wait to welcome you to the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Center. See you soon!